laying blame on the game, the lion's share of the blame, 90% of it goes on Jimmy Garoppolo.
We all agree on that. Yes.
Yeah.
90%.
But when you look at what that pass defense allowed, what was it? 8 completions to AJ Brown on third down, I think was the number I saw. And 6 of those were for first downs. And that was the most receptions by a player on third down since 1978.
Oh, yeah, it's not good. Especially a good defense shouldn't let that happen. Good coordinator, good defense shouldn't let that happen.
And that was really their one guy. And they had another guy who I'd never heard of before made a couple of deep receptions on them as well on third and long. They just couldn't get pressure on the quarterback against a third string left tackle and a really bad right tackle. I know they were playing a lot of max protect, and DeMeco Ryans needs to come up with something to counter the chips on Bosa. Because that's what we've seen. We saw it against Green Bay. We saw it on Thursday night. When teams go ahead and chip Nick Bosa, he's completely ineffective, and the 49ers look like they have no way of counteracting it.
Yep, it's true. He just gets pushed to the inside, and he's like, well,
yeah, and that's what we saw. They just, there's no pressure from them, and that group's been playing pretty well up front, but they just did not perform at all on Thursday night in the second half. It was a really good first half. The second half was rough. I understand you can't blame them for the first touchdown that they allowed. I mean, you can if you want to, but they started on the 18-yard line after the pick.
Right.
But the way that the first drive and the third drive of the second half with all those third down conversions, they just couldn't get off the field. And I do think that they deserve a little bit of criticism for the way that they played.
I agree. I mean, to me, I don't expect Josh Norman or Ambry Thomas to win one-on-one against AJ Brown in any situation. I don't I haven't seen the film of the defense, but it seems to me that in a situation where you're going against an offense that has legitimately one threat, like Julio Jones was nowhere in that game. I can't even name the tight ends. Ferkser, they're not going to beat you. You got to have you should have 10 different ways to double team AJ Brown on third down so the ball goes elsewhere. I mean, 16 targets, 11 catches. That should have been 8 targets. You should have found a way to get Tannehill to throw other places. And I'm sure you leave other people open, but you got to live by the philosophy of you're not going to let AJ Brown beat you in this game because he's the only person on this team who's going to beat you. The Niners can beat you with multiple people. Kittle, Debo, not Tennessee.
No, and you're right. They had to just shut that guy down. I'm going to shut this guy down, and I'm going to take my chances and see if they can beat me with everybody else. But this guy's not going to be the one that makes the plays.
And what was interesting with what Vrabel did was his decision was to shut down Kittle. They really made it a point to double Kittle, bracket Kittle. Don't let Kittle beat you. And interesting choice. Debo's just as good, if not better, and he had a great game. The Niners, there was no choice. You have to shut down Brown. Julio Jones is not moving well. No one else it has even name value. That's it. And he couldn't do it. And it's not that he's inexperienced. Saleh was the same way. Saleh was the same. It was one of my really only criticisms of Saleh was he would lose to teams like that. One threat. And it's like, man, you're too smart. You're too good. You're too talented to let that happen. But I think both DeMeco and Saleh are very committed to their scheme and being sound on defense, that they don't want to really tilt their defense to take away one guy and leave themselves vulnerable in other places. I don't think they like to. And I think it's a weakness, and it's something that Belichick and his disciples do really well. Opponent specific attacks.
Yeah, that's what you have to do that to a certain extent. You have to try to take away one thing and and let it and say, well, I'm going to live with them beating me here, but I'm going to take away this because this is worse for us. And
absolutely. I think they don't do that. That's what Tennessee did. They took away the run game, which they're good at doing. They took away Kittle and said, beat us another way. And Debo went off, but the Niners really don't win often when they're forced to play that way. It's not their brand.